Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we're doing another installment of the weekly meta breakdown where we look at the top performing decks on the MTG Arena ladder. This is going to be for Explorer Best of 1. If you're looking for Standard, Historic, whatever it may be, check out the playlist. Best of 3, we should have some content there as well. Try to get these out weekly. One thing I've noticed with Explorer, the meta's been fairly stale, and we're just not getting the same volumes. In a recent Wizards kind of state of the game, Explorer was actually the least played format. It was actually behind Alchemy of all things, just in terms of volume of games played. As such, we haven't been getting that diverse of a data population from Untapped GG. This is normally what I rely on because it's a statistical based approach to looking at the best decks. I try to avoid coming in and YouTube hot taking like this deck is broken, and kind of going from that avenue. I like numbers to kind of correlate to these feelings and sentiments. But given that, what I did was I kind of went through and found some decks that are either kind of new, innovative, kind of got some changes with new sets, or just things that have been performing well, things that I think are reasonable into the best of 1 format. We're going to just start with Untapped just for popularity of the day. So the most popular deck right now is Boros Heroic. This is a deck we'll feature today. It got a big upgrade in Monstrous Rage. This is the deck that I got Mythic with last month. It's very powerful right now in Best of 1, especially because Mono Green is the second most popular deck. The Boros deck just smacks Mono Green. It's pretty much like a free win unless you mull it like terribly or just get like a bad draw. They tend to be a little bit too slow. Then you just go over the top. Monstrous Rage gives you trample. And there's like a bunch of utility cards kind of go over the top. God's Willing, stuff of that nature. Angels still at 8.3%. So Angels usually is seeing more play at the Platinum rank. It's kind of a more newer player, life gain is busted kind of strategy. But further up, you tend to see some deviation. Practice Sacrifice in there, Mono Red Aggro, Golgari Elves. I tried Mono Red Aggro with Monstrous Rage for Annex. So kind of playing the Embercleaves, playing the Rages. But it still kind of runs into that same issue of just running out of gas in the format. And then naturally I played it, hadn't seen Angels for who knows how long, and then 3 of my games were Angels, so pack that one up pretty quick. You got Greasefang still can provide some value, and then the Convoke decks. The Convoke decks are shifting in Pioneer to play some copies of Imodane's Recruiter, the uncommon from Wilds of Eldraine. Like one of the best cards in Limited is seeing some play in Constructed as well. Mono Green is showing, like for the day at least, a fairly high win percentage. It certainly put up wins in Best of 1, but I think in Best of 1 it's not as well suited, just given like the formats tend to be more aggressive, which is something that Mono Green doesn't really have the ability to hedge against. Well, it does take a couple turns to get started. Mono Green's taught like redundancy, just consistency is very powerful, but it can get run over by some of the more aggressive decks. Even just looking at the format itself, like we've seen the Heroic deck kind of come up in recent weeks. It went from like pretty much the dumpster 2% all the way up to 11%. So one of the bigger risers. Angels was hovering towards the top, at least in the Platinum ranks, and now we're seeing it like sub 10%, kind of all mixed in. Similarly, like if you look at the Heroic deck, it went from 62% down to the dumpsters of like 54, all the way back up to like 59, kind of mixed into there over time. So interesting things all considered. And we're going to look at MTG decks, which I'm guessing does some sort of web scraping to kind of look at the various tools and stuff like that. Because this one, they actually pulled my stats from the deck, which is fairly interesting. So I have it from Untapped as well. Like if we look here, you can see, like I haven't been playing much Constructed. I've been sick. I also got the Diamond in Limited this month, so I was playing more Limited. So I'm 12-2. My only losses were to Dimir Fairies as Rakdos Midrange, which is kind of expected. Like heavy Fatal Push, heavy removal based decks tend to kind of power you over when you're trying to go all in on certain creatures. But the deck itself, you're playing a creature package, Favorite Hoplite in here, 10th District Legionnaire, 2 Dreadhorde Arcanists, Swiss Spears. Illuminator Virtuoso is kind of the big card. Especially against like Mono Green, you want to set up your Virtuoso draws, because with the Monstrous Rage, it just pushes through so much damage with the deck. So now you have 8 ways to give trample at 1 mana, And notably, all these are very easy to flash back as well with Dreadhorde Arcanist, but also notably, the Monstrous Rage sticks on the monster roll token, so your creature always has trample in those cases there. So it's really interesting in that case there. Mana base, you're only playing 18 lands, plus 2 Spike Field Hazards for the 20, and you push through a lot of damage. Divine Strike gives you cycling abilities, the Ancestral Anger gives you cycling abilities, and then God's Willing for protection kind of mixed into there. The Reckless Rage, very impactful. 4 damage, deals with all the angels, deals with Bishop of Wings, deals with a lot of the creatures out of mono red, and even just getting 4 damage on, especially when you have a double strike trampler, huge kind of virtuoso, plays very well in those games itself. And got the companion kind of mixed into there. So that's the deck I've been playing. We then go to mono white humans. So this was 17-4 by Astral Flame, another content creator, 80% up in the mythic rank. So the decks itself, nothing really new with the mono white decks for the most part. You have your Knight Errants, you have your Brutal Cathars, Adeline, Thalia's Lieutenant, just very powerful human kind of synergy decks. A split with this one of 2 Braves, 3 Ossifications, so opting for a little bit more removal in best of 1, kind of combat it. You also have a lot of utility lands between Mutavaults, Castle Ardenvales, and a copy of a Gonjo. So this is another deck that if you're looking to be fairly aggressive, taxing, stuff of that nature, a little bit more redundancy into like heavy removal because while there's individually powerful creatures, like in the Boros deck, you have a lot of cards that don't do anything unless you have a creature, where these you just have individually powerful threats kind of mixed in. Spirits is another deck we're going to take a look at. This one went 58 and 29 on the ladder. It's a powerful deck that can definitely win games in best of 1. The big thing that we have is Spell Queller in these lists. Just another kind of flash threat that comes in, exiles on the stack. You always have the power of like Rattle Chains to give you more flash threats in terms of all your spirits. Shacklegeist can tap down things. And then this list has kind of got some interesting ones. Empyrean Eagle, Bird Spirit, allows your other creatures with flying to get +1/1. We see a copy of Errant and Giada in here. So Flash Flying, while not a spirited spell, lets you play spirits or lets you play spells with flash or flying from the top of your library. Notably, all your creatures are flashing or flying or flashing flying. So this provides you some pseudo card advantage off the top of your library. So as a one-of, super reasonable card to include in here. It's going with a disruption package of 1 Slip Out the Back, 1 Pierce, 1 Lofty Denial, bunch of cheap removal or kind of counter tempo plays, and then 4 Geist Snares, where with the combination of Geist Snare and a Spirit and Enchantment, you can make this just a 1 mana leak. And this version is also really interesting, playing 2 Invasion and Gobukan. So cheap way to kind of thought seize your opponent. And with this deck, because you have so many evasive creatures, super easy to turn like flip the battle. You're not really concerned with the board getting gummed up. Mana base, you got the Mutavaults because you are on a 2-color deck. You're not playing the Faceless Havens. Really good mana between like all the various dual lands that exist in the format right now. So this is another interesting one. This one went 12 and 1. This is Golgari Midrange. So we've seen like the prevalence of Golgari in Standard getting a boost, and we gotta get additional threats in the format. So also seen some of these in Pioneer as well. The notable card we're missing in here is Abrupt Decay. 2 mana uncounterable, destroy non-land permanent 3 CMC or less. Very, very powerful card. In place of that, we're seeing Assassin's Trophy get played. While similar functionality and can scale up, it does provide your opponent with a land, so it has some downside in that regard. Seeing Shieldred as $89 nuts. It's like $120 Canadian here. We have Cankerbloom in here, Misery Shadow, Scavenging Ooze as a card that we don't get in Standard, so nice way to kind of eat at the graveyards. This version's also got a couple copies of Eska's Chariot as well as Reckoner Bankbuster in here, so for the grind value, an assortment of various removal spells, Thoughtseize, Liliana, copy of Mutavault and Mana Base, Castle Lockwane for the grind value is really impactful. Playing Hives over the Cottage, so opting for a cheaper manland instead of the Cottage, in the sense that it can come into play untapped, I would say is kind of the utility. You do have the potential with like a lot of other incidental tap lands between like the Blooming Marsh, Deathglade, Capglade, depending on where you're curving out with your lands themselves. And then lastly, I just want to share some of the innovation that we've been seeing with the Gruul boats list. So this was a list that pretty much the same list top aided the Lyles, like the European tournament for Pioneer, the RCQ, which had like 600 people. So Huntmaster's Redemption is seeing quite a bit of play in the slot here. The creator of the deck quoted it as being the Green Fable, the Mirror Breaker. But we're seeing it as, so Chapter 1 gets you a 3/3 Beast token. Chapter 2, you can sacrifice creature. If you do, search your library for a land or creature, put into your hand. Chapter 3, up to 2 creatures get +2/2 and trample 10 the turn. So this lets you have some sort of toolbox elements as well with the deck. So the combination, then you have your Cronin Wars, which you can steal stuff, lets you play fewer number of Thrill Seekers, but more consistently find your Thrill Seekers. So what you kind of do is you get to Chapter 3, you give your Lovestruck Beast a boost, you give, like, you steal your opponent's creature, whatever, that give it a boost, then you can Voldaren Thrill Seeker, give that creature even more power. So think of like Lovestruck, right? The 5 power, it gets +2/2 trample, then the Voldaren Thrill Seeker puts another 2 backup 1 or 2, backup 2. So it becomes a 9/9 trampler. You attack into your opponent, and then you fling it at your opponent. So effectively 18 damage coming across on that turn cycle. Unlicensed Hearse in the main, Eska's Chariot, we're seeing fewer number of boats in these lists going forward. So we're seeing like one Sky Sovereign in the sideboard as opposed to like main board, kind of mixed into all that. Boseju's in there, all kind of mixed into the deck itself. So interesting kind of take. I've been picking up my Hunt Masters. I have this deck in paper, so I need 2 more of those now. But interesting to see how these decks kind of evolve over time and how the introduction of these new cards from Wilds is influencing the deck themselves. That's it for the week. Kind of just like an idea of what, if you want to try some new things out, this is what's happening in Pioneer, kind of the evolution of some decks that can be outside of the beaded, just like, yeah, Mono Green's still good, Greasefang's still good, there's nothing strange that. Like, watch the videos from the last like 8 months, the same thing. But I wanted to kind of cover like some newer stuff that you can try on the ladder itself. In any case, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great one. See you out there.